We're back, but this time with Frankie Abbott.
Oh.
Again, of Let's Talk Broncos, the greatest, the greatest collective of Broncos writers and podcasters of all time. The Broncos made 2 picks. Kris Abrams-Draine from Missouri and the cornerback. We'll start off with him. Frankie, do you have any thoughts on that selection for the Broncos there?
I'm pretty excited about it. Fits into what they're trying to do on defense. They want to create big plays, turnovers, sacks, whatever. They're trying to get a lot of those big swing plays. Kris Abrams-Draine is a guy throughout his career, has had really good ball skills. He's generated a lot of turnovers. I think he has like 7 career picks. Gets a lot of pass breaks up. He's feisty in coverage, which is really fun. They play a lot of off man and a lot of zone at Missouri, so he has a lot of experience playing that, which I think he's going to see a lot in Vance Joseph's defense. He's a decent downhill run defender, but like he's a little bit undersized, but for a 5th-round pick, I think this is wonderful. It's a guy who has a lot of really good production throughout his time in college. He was at the Senior Bowl, so I think you got the chance to see him, Joey. But I don't remember him having a standout week either direction, whether it was good or bad. But, yeah, I mean, this is, again, I think a very solid player that has a lot of good production throughout his career and fits really well into the scheme. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Frankie. I mean, this is a guy we're talking about a lot of ball production in his career at Missouri, 26 pass breakups in the last 2 years, which is an extremely high number. And it makes sense because he came into Missouri as a wide receiver and even played games as a wide receiver at Missouri before switching the corner. I think he's a little bit of a risk taker there, 7 interceptions through his career. But like you said, feisty, I think the size is just a concern. Zach, what do you make of it?
This is my favorite pick the Broncos have made so far. I think it's a slam dunk. We got Carter in here too. I cannot believe that he is like a 5th-round cornerback. He was one of my favorite kind of like sleepers in this draft. I'm very happy that the Broncos ended up getting him as their like Riley Moss, Damari Mathis insurance plan because, and I was talking with Bree about this at our live draft show. My issue with the idea of investing high in cornerback wasn't that the Broncos don't need cornerbacks. It's that it would be an incredible indictment on their past investments in that position. It would show that, man, they probably already feel like they've whiffed on those picks. That said, the position opposite, the boundary corner opposite Surtain is a huge question mark. They do need some sort of insurance there. And Abrams-Draine is an awesome option. You mentioned the wide receiver thing. He looks like a wide receiver at the position. In terms of his ball skills, like the background absolutely matches the tape there. And he's a good athlete too, both in terms of movement skills. And then I think like his build, like he is like nicely sized. He's a little slender. And so like maybe not the best run defender. But that's less of a concern for me with him out on the boundary, but still like it's not ideal. I don't think he's going to be like the most physical presence. But I think he's a really good coverage player, a good athlete. And like we said, the ball production is awesome. Is Sutton getting traded right now? 1 second.
I haven't seen anything. Frank Carter, what do you make of Abrams-Draine's, the selection there, cornerback out of Missouri?
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. I like going. I think he was clearly the best player available, highest ranked player on the board. And I thought they were going to add to the corner room last night, but they didn't end up doing it. And so they add it here. And I think it's a great pick. Yeah, Damari Mathis, Riley Moss kind of makes me wonder how they feel about them, especially Damari, like Frankie said in the chat. But I think it's a good pick. I really like it.
Yep. Frankie, go ahead.
I was just saying something that's cool too is, I mean, he does have the versatility that, say, Jaquan McMillan doesn't end up, progressing the way I think we all hope or continue at his play. He does have experience playing slot. He was a primary slot player his sophomore year at Missouri. Also has some kick return capability, which is pretty cool. He was the primary kick returner, I believe, for Missouri the past couple seasons. At least this last season he was. So you get another piece there that they can use. No choice Franklin back at kicker punt returner. So I think that's a decent piece as well. So, I mean, again, you get a guy that has special teams value, fits the scheme well, can play inside or outside if you really need him to. I think he's just kind of a piece for the secondary to get to use. And, yeah, I'm it's a good selection of we'll see how it ends up aging. 5th-round pick, you don't want to set the expectations too high, but decent piece to add to a room that needs talent.
Yeah, Zach, man, we were talking in the last podcast. This is one of those. Zach is a big believer in the consensus big board means a lot. And this is one of those type of picks where I think the consensus on Abrams-Draine was a lot higher compared to where he was actually selected. That would be a steal in comparison for that. But so let's move on to the next one here in the Broncos.
I do wonder if this means that Tremon Smith is at risk of being cut.
Yeah, I would wonder that.
Tremon Smith is now the 6th corner in the room. And Trayvon's like, again, it was very odd to me last year when they needed corner help that Trayvon didn't get any snaps because, again, Trayvon Smith is so fucking good on special teams that I'd be very sad if they kind of lose out on that. But hopefully some of the young guys can step in. Riley Moss looked like a really good gunner last season, whatever. But that is kind of something I think to keep in note that with the signing of Levi Wallace and then the addition of this, they're 7 deep in the corner room right now.
Yeah, they are.
I think it's a great point. And I also think like Trayvon Smith is an ace on special teams, right? But at this stage in the rebuild, like our veteran special teams players, what you need to be investing cap space in, like there is something to be said about like stability on that side of the ball, but also special teams is a great platform for you to get reps for these young guys, for these day 3 picks, which the Broncos have a good number of even after their trade up. And they like the one positive, and it's like not a great positive, but the one positive too, being in this teardown state of like roster rebuild is you're going to give opportunities to guys that normally wouldn't get them. And that's going to be generally painful, but you're going to find some diamonds in the rough as a result of that. I don't know if you need like a special teams gunner ace in Trayvon Smith when you could be maybe giving those reps to a younger player that could be developing. Also, Trayvon Smith, last year of his deal and has a surprisingly high cap hit this year at $3.2 million. None of that's guaranteed. So a good little avenue for them to free up some extra cap space here if that is the aim for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I wonder, do you think Damari Mathis could be cut this offseason? Is that an option?
I think he's gone.
Yeah, you think Damari Mathis is up out of here? Is that consensus? What do you guys think? Carter is shaking his head yes. Zach is saying no.
I don't think he's gone. I think people are like corner is a high variance position, and that goes both ways. And like he totally bombed out last year. But I think it's just in the same way, I think it was a little foolish to bank on him being the same guy in 2023 that he was in 2022. I think it's a little overconfident and foolish to bank on him being the same guy in 2024 that he was in 2023, especially given the 2022 tape. I don't know. And if I had to bet, I would definitely bet on him not turning it around. That's by far the more likely outcome. But I don't know. He's young. He's on a rookie deal. He's cheap. I think that's the type of guy you would want to keep around. It's over like a Trayvon Smith, for example. Even if Trayvon Smith is right now the better player, that's my dog. I would think there's a very good chance he's cut. I think it's far from set in stone.
Zach has a dog in the background. Frankie has a cat in the background. We're pet lovers here. Let's talk Broncos. Like this video if you appreciate pets. Anyways,
my counter would be. Hold on, sorry, I don't mean to keep adding to the Kris. My only counter would be, and again, I like Damari Mathis. I was a big Damari Mathis guy coming out. He was one of my guys as a prospect. I really liked Damari. I think it really says something that he was part of the previous regime's drafting. I think that this regime has clearly shown that they don't really have too many ties to a lot of these guys that were here beforehand. And I also just think, like, again, when we talk about your depth defensive backs, you want them to be either contributors on special teams or at least playing special teams. Damari Mathis is not that. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think he could end up being a practice squad guy. I think, there is a shot he ends up making the roster. It is such an uphill battle for him right now. It'd be easier for him if I think the other safeties, because that's who he's competing with at this point. I think a lot of the corners are sadly kind of locked in that he has to kind of hope that they decided to keep an extra corner over keeping an extra safety. The only problem with that is the safeties that are here right now were brought in by this coaching staff. You've got Locke. Stearns is maybe the one guy you could consider going out. They drafted Skinner, and then they just brought in Brandon Jones, and they just re-signed PJ Locke. So, like, clearly they like those guys, I think, more than they might like a guy that they weren't even really a part of drafting. That's my only thought on it all, is I think if you were to rank who is the most likely to stay, I think Damari Mathis is close. He's lower on that list of who you want to keep than Trayvon Smith, for me at least.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Even with the
Can I add on to that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
They also were very high on Art Green, the corner that they got UDFA last year. I could see Art Green making the team over Damari Mathis in camp.
Totally.
100%.
Damari Mathis is not a pick of this regime, even though he's like George Payton's pick. He's not Sean Payton's pick. And I want to be clear. I just wouldn't bury Damari Mathis yet. Mm-hmm. I think the odds are so bad for him. I want to be clear about that, but I also think like corner is a high variance position. He has good tape out there. And just like he dropped off a cliff after having good tape out there, maybe he can turn it around a little bit after putting a lot of bad tape out there. I think he's still a very young player with tremendous physical gifts. And his rookie year, like there was some legit good stuff. It wasn't just flukiness. There were downs certainly during that rookie year as well, but I don't know. I think there's still something in there that maybe
Max's whole issues are all mental. Like he's not a physically incapable player of playing at the next level. It's just when he has a bad rep that sticks in his brain, he'll have 4 bad reps in a row after that, and that's what usually happens. And that kind of it'll go from him having like a good game and a half to then, holy shit, this is the worst corner we've seen for like 18 straight snaps. What do we do with this? So I have plenty of belief that he can figure it out. I just don't know if this coaching staff is willing to dedicate more time to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the not for long league. You can't go out there and just have you can't be a low drafted guy, and he wasn't a very highly drafted guy, really, in the grand scheme of things, and just not play good for 2 years. Like you're probably going to be off of there. And he flashed his rookie year, but I still wouldn't say it was good. Like that is, and then he goes out there and plays worse the second year. I don't know. But let's move on here. Audric Estime from Notre Dame, the running back. Some people, he's slow. He ran a 4.7 40, but he is a big bruising back. Carter, we'll start off with you this time, and then Frankie will move on to you from there. What do you think of Audric Estime?
I like it. I think it's a good pick. I kind of always had a feeling they were going to add to the running back room, and as much as they were tied to Jalen Wright, this one's a little more surprising because I think they're not close at all to being the same player. But he's big. Like he's going to score a lot of touchdowns on the goal line. He's also he's kind of slippery too between the tackles. Like it's tough to bring him down. I like the pick. I think he fits this room well. And I think this is one of Sean's guys that he has a big vision for.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I like the Estime pick as well. I do. I think the Broncos needed a running back, honestly. Frankie, this is a conversation me and you had a ton. I didn't see the Broncos doing it, but I did think that they should add to the room. What do you make of the Audric Estime pick, Frankie?
I mean, Joey, like you said, we've been talking about this for weeks. Like, man, They keep having these top 30 visits with running backs, even though the running back room seems to be spoken for. They have a, quote, 3-headed monster. They like Jaleel McLaughlin. They seem to like Javonte. The odd man out I've been saying for weeks. As much as I love Samaje, and Samaje has been good, I think this kind of cements that. I think they're willing to move off of him. I was saying it all last year that with Javonte kind of not looking like, I'd say, the top 12 back in the league we all kind of hoped he would be, I could see him kind of sliding into more of a Samaje Perine type role. He's always been an adequate pass protector. He beats the hell out of people when they come on blitzes. He's a decent enough pass catcher. I'm not saying he's running crazy routes, but if you need a dump off option, Javonte Williams can do that. And he's also efficient between the tackles, even though that's kind of fallen off in the last couple of years. I truly do believe that they might see Javonte Williams just sliding over into the Samaje role. And at the end of last season, they were using Michael Burton as the third down back half the time over Samaje Perine. So I really do think that the coaching staff is kind of like, hey, this is a bit of a luxury. I've also kind of hypothesized that Samaje is kind of a known commodity in the league. Teams like Samaje. He's been in the playoffs before, and he kind of plays a very weird niche role that playoff teams like. Having a back that can come in and be an extra lineman for you on third downs is huge. So I wonder if there is the chance that Samaje ends up getting moved for a day 3 pick, but whatever. We're not talking about that. Audric Estime, I really like this pick. I mean, we've said it for the past year. We want to see this team be a downhill bruising running team. We want to see more gap runs. They were a bit too zone heavy last year, and I think that was a lot of the personnel that they ended up having. Javonte wasn't really back to his, I'd say, pre-injury self, and I don't say that in the sense of it really being on him. I think a lot of it was mental. On next-gen stats, Javonte Williams was, I think, the top 3 slowest backs getting to the line of scrimmage. There was clearly a lot of hesitance in him hitting these holes directly, which when you're talking about running duo, when you're talking about running power, when you're talking about running these counters or these delayed gives, you got to hit the specific hole then. There's no, let's wait a second. No, when the puller opens up the gap, you need to get through that bitch. You don't wait and see if you can bounce it outside. I think Audric Estime is going to be that guy for this team. He's going to pound the ball downhill. As we've mentioned, he's 5'11", 260 pounds. This guy is a bowling ball, but he's also a little bit nimble in the feet. As Carter was mentioning, he's a little bit elusive. He's really good at kind of slipping defenders when he's in those gaps. So he can kind of make guys miss in a phone booth, even though he is the size of the phone booth. So I'm really excited about this pick. I think the red zone offense is going to be a lot better this year, even though it was already pretty good last year because a lot of the stuff Russ was doing. I think that's an area Bo Nix thrives in. I think Audric Estime is going to be a big addition to that. Hell, we could even see Troy Franklin being a little bit of an asset in that regard. Yeah. I really do think that like this team either they just needed a pure gap runner. Jaleel, as much as I like him, he's more of your scat back. You're running this guy outside on quick tosses. You're giving him to the outside zones. Even though he's decent between the tackles, that's not what you're wanting to do with a 170-pound player. Javonte, I think, again, we're still kind of waiting to see. I think this gives you insurance because is this the last year of Javonte's contract too?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, sir.
This gives you insurance that you have a body for beyond this season that you can trust to do those between the tackles runs, I think, more than, okay, we have to pray, I think, that Javonte has a full return to form. Otherwise, we might not necessarily have a guy that we trust to do what our offense is designed to do.
Wow. Okay, breaking news real quick, guys. Breaking news. Jets and Broncos trade. Jets are sending defensive end John Franklin Myers, who started 50 games in the past 3 seasons to the Broncos in exchange for a 2026 6th-round pick.
That is free. That's free.
The Broncos need a lot of help up front for their defensive line. I think right now, man, they're killing this draft to me right now. Frankie, go off, man. You seem super stoked about this. So give us your thoughts.
I mean, shit, dude. We just got like an actual, proven, established, solid defensive lineman in the NFL that can also rotate. Like, he can play a lot of different alignments along this defensive front. I don't think he's necessarily a guy you're counting on to play like the 0 through 2I that I think Denver really needs right now, barring a return of Mike Purcell. But man, we've talked about it all year. They just need talent in the defensive trenches. This team is not going to be able to stop shit running the ball. It's a very big concern of mine. I don't know what they're going to do on first and second down. Third down is going to be fun. I'm excited for that. First and second down on defense, going to be atrocious. This helps that. This helps that a lot. It's another one of those things where what the hell are the Jets doing? Why did you draft Will McDonald last year at 15 just to end up trading John Franklin Myers, who's arguably better right now, probably just is better right now? Hilarious decision. Nathaniel Hackett, you suck, but not really on him. But yeah, fuck yeah, dude, let's go. They just established quality players for a 6th-round deal. Is he even on a big contract right now? I'll figure that out.
I'm looking it up. I have it up right here. There's void deal. I don't know how the void years will transfer over. I think the Jets are going to have to eat those to my knowledge. That's really weird that they
thought that void years the team that traded him have to eat. That's
because it's the guarantees they've already paid in their space. Wow.
This is hilarious.
The Broncos should be getting him for 3 years, or no, sorry, the last year's of void year. 2 years, 7.3 guaranteed.
Oh.
And I mean the cap numbers are big, so that's why they got him so easy. But no, that they're eating a good chunk of that cap number. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how the math plays here. I think they're paying him $9 million this year. 7 of that will be guaranteed. And then next year they should be paying him around 14.3. Right? Wait, that's not right. They're paying him 13.3 this year, 14.3 next year. Yes, that's correct. And $7 million of that's guaranteed. But with how well Franklin Myers has played, 13.3 mil, especially also with how much cap space the Broncos have to spend, that's fine. And Frankie said it, like he hit the nail on the head. They needed someone that could play some more early down snaps for them. And John Franklin Myers can do that. Like, this rounds out their edge room some. And not only that, the other aspect of this I like, no way you're keeping Drew Sanders at edge now. No way. No way. You're moving him back to off-ball linebacker where his ass should be. And I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, so John Franklin Myers, each of the past 4 seasons has 50+ pressures. I'm just this is a good move. This is just I have a hard time having any issue with this. Fuck yeah. Let's go.
Especially, so the Broncos get him for 2 years, Zach, is what you said, pretty much?
Even if they don't.
That's fucking awesome.
2, and really, it's a 1 year. In reality, it's going to be a 1 year, $13.5 million deal with a $14 million team option on the second year. So
I go watch an NFL defensive line today.
That's not that bad. That's really good. Man, the day 3, I still have some reservations about what the Broncos did on day 2. I have reservations about what the Broncos did on day 1. I'm very happy with what they've done on day 3 so far. I get to see Zach smile. Yeah, I'm off the edge. We've opened the window. We've come back inside. I think it's a little like the Lions draft last year. I feel very different for several reasons, but where it's like, what the fuck are they doing? And like, as the draft went on, it became like more and more acceptable, and like the pieces kind of fell together and was a little more okay. That's where I'm at with this one. I like it so far. I do hope this means Drew Sanders is moving back to linebacker. A lot of pieces of this fit together. I like it. We can go back and test, but I like all this. This is good. Carter.
One more thing. The trade has been in the works for a week, and he's expected to restructure his deal with Denver. They've already been in talks.
Oh, wow.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, so the restructure, the fact that they're trading him for so cheap in the restructure makes me think they're going to get him for cheaper. I wonder if they'll extend it at all.
Yeah, that was my initial thoughts.
But it could It could, so it either is an extension or they'll just do a standard restructure. And what I was talking about, where $13 million and then that second year is a team option, that second year will become less of a team option, but they would reduce the cap hit this year. Which, if it's not the extension route, if they just take that route, that also makes a lot of sense. Because again, as we've talked about a bit here on Let's Talk Broncos, maybe not in a while, but the Broncos have a ton of cap space in 2025, 2026. Don't have a ton of cap space this year. So take this Franklin Myers contract that's, 26 mil over 2 years, 27 mil over 2 years, and just make it more like 7 mil this year, 20 mil next year, instead of an even 50-50 split. And it's a little easier to swallow from a cap standpoint. So all this makes a lot of fucking sense for the Broncos. This is maybe my favorite move of theirs of draft day. And then I'd say my second favorite pick of theirs is, my second favorite move of theirs is the Abrams-Davis pick. Or Abrams-Draine pick. That's my favorite pick overall. And then my second favorite pick and third favorite move would be Audric Estime. I'm feeling a lot better in these last 30 minutes. This is fun.
Guys, I like reading other teams' tweets personally. Like, that's always a fun thing after the trade.
Oh, Jets fans have to be pissed.
I'll read you. This is from the Jet Press. Which is a blog by some fan-sided. It said, yeah, look, man, I know JFM's contract was hefty, but there isn't a player on the roster who fills this role right now. Trading him away and getting virtually nothing in return, ... I am not a fan of this at all. Not sure about that for the Jets. We'll miss John Franklin Myers. Very good player. I love hearing other teams' fans weep, probably because I have to all the time as a Broncos fan. I'm constantly coping. So, yeah, no, it's awesome. Guys, I do, though, before we get out of here, because the name of this is Kris Abrams-Draine and Audric Estime. I want to circle back to Estime because we haven't really got our thoughts out on him. Frankie gave us his thoughts. Zach, what are your thoughts on Estime?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I just want to weigh in quick on that. It reminds me a lot of the Kyren Williams pick. And I don't want to or Kyren Williams. I'm still not sure how to say it. Kyren. I've heard it say
Kyren. I don't know.
Alfred Morris.
It reminds me a lot of that pick. And I hope I'm not just helmet scouting there, but just man, the tape's really good on this guy. I agree with everything Frankie said on him. He's got some shiftiness. He's an absolute brick shit house. I just swore. I'm sorry, Bud West. I was trying not to swear, and then I immediately did it.
Family program.
But built like a brick monster. I don't know. Like the Great Sphinx of Egypt, just a giant stone mausoleum. Runs people over. I'm a big fan of his. And then you get to the scouting combine testing and the 40 times really bad. And I think that kind of pushed him down the board a good bit. This is one of the few backs in this draft that I think you can project to being a true workhorse back. I think he immediately probably replaces the Pirine role, to Frankie's point. But he's great Javonte Williams insurance. If you get to training camp this year and you're ugh, I think we're getting Javonte's not it, or it looks like he still looks like he was kind of down the stretch of last year. Javonte was sneaky pretty solid the first 10, 11 weeks last year, and then really dropped off down the stretch. I think there's a chance you get to camp and go, okay, maybe our best three is, Jaleel, Pirine, and Estime. Hopefully that's not the reality, but now you have some built-in insurance there where it's not like, oh, we're losing our workhorse and we're completely screwed. So this one makes a lot of sense too. It's great. I see D-Bronx happy about it. D-Bronx has been maybe lower on this draft than anyone I've seen. And his reaction to this one, I saw it in our chat, was the Broncos just saved their draft with the Estime pick, which it's a good pick. It makes so much sense. I hope he ends up being half as good as Kyron Williams, whatever, was for the Rams this year.
Yes. The part that made this, and Frankie, you mentioned it when you were talking about it, when we were having this conversation for weeks now on the podcast, and you brought it to the podcast, was just, it was confusing because of the three-headed monster. It was no question that the Broncos had to improve the run game. It was just, you really have a hard time giving up on Javonte, right? Because you expected him not to look great a year off of that injury. It's just now going in the year two, what do we expect? And it's just a complete mystery. They had to improve it. You just couldn't give up on Javonte yet. I think Frankie laid it out perfect. Samaje Perine was the guy. I don't think he's a good enough runner. He's terrific in other areas. Terrific. Literally an extra offensive lineman out there. He had some of the best, most receiving yards from a running back in the league last year. It's just the Broncos had to improve their run game, and Estime does that for me. And he's not a tell for your offense like Jaleel McLaughlin is all the way. So I love that pick too. Guys, just quick vibe check before we sign out here. Not a long thing. Just give me, how are you guys feeling about the draft as a whole right now? Frankie, go. Or do you like it? Do you dislike it? Just give me a vibe check.
Vibe check. I feel like we kind of won a little bit, and I know that that's going to sound hot considering, they took Bo Nix at fucking 12. But here's what now I'm doing it. I'm just letting out the devil words. You got a quarterback, all right? I don't care I do care, obviously, but I don't care if he ends up being good. You took a quarterback you liked. Good. You took a high-value position on day 2 in edge rusher. Good. You took a corner, which the team needed. Good. This team is built to run the fucking ball, and they don't really have a guy that I trust to tote the rock 25 times a game. Now they do. Good. And they added so John Franklin Myers, if he was a, quote, prospect, would have been probably the second or maybe best edge rusher in this class. So you got edge 1, 2. So pretty hard to be upset right now. I'm sure I'll get – and I completely forgot about Troy Franklin. Whatever. So I'm pretty hyped. They added a lot of talented players. I don't think they had to spend too much to move up. Getting a quality edge piece it's a 2026 6th rounder too, which is hilarious. It's not
even this year.
So Robert Saleh's not even going to get to see that pick, which is very funny. Across the board, well done. Shout out to George and Sean. George Payton, you get some props from me today. And just a little round of applause, a little soft clap for the boys. Let's go.
It's funny seeing all these trades happen with the team and coach that Sean Payton apparently had beef with, right? Saleh calling him out after Sean Payton called Hackett out. It's just funny. Zach, give me your vibe check. What are the vibes right now over this draft?
I'm feeling better. I think recency bias might be coloring that some, but I'd say outside the Knicks pick, we were there, at our live show. And one thing we were saying was just get good players, especially right after the Raiders take Brock Bowers right after Knicks. We were saying, that's a little funky, but just take the best players on the board and worry about making it work later. And it's not that hard to figure out how Bowers and Mayer and all that works. You put one of them as an F or a power slot and make the other one a Y. But it is a little funky. It is truly unprecedented to see a team invest that much capital in consecutive years at the tight end position. Never happened before. Literally unprecedented. But Brock Bowers is an awesome player. So take him at 13 and figure it out later. And that's what I feel about the Broncos' day 2 and day 3 pick. There's some weirdness with Jonah Ellis, 1,000%. There's some weirdness with Troy Franklin, 1,000%. I think there's maybe even some weirdness with Abrams-Draine and Estime, or maybe even Franklin Myers. Get the talent on this team. This team is so talent poor, so thirsty for just good players. Just find them. Get them on the roster and go from there. They need everything. They're not in a position, I think, where they can. You guys talked about how like, oh, they're kind of set at running back. Maybe they don't draft one. It's weird they're taking so many top 30 visits, which I agree with. But it's also like we only feel that way because of the running back room in contrast to the other groups on this roster. In a vacuum, that running back room is in a fine place to be adding more bodies to it. Every position group on this roster, except maybe quarterback now, because you've like, not that you have a great answer solidified, but you've invested a fair bit there. I doubt you add any more. But every every position on this roster could use some additions. I think they're doing that. They're finding talented pieces that seem like good value relative to where they're being picked. I like it. I'd give it a B- B so far.
Okay. And now Carter, vibe check.
Vibe check, solid. I think they're kind of putting their hands on every part of the football team, obviously, but through trades, through flyer contracts, like minimum contracts, like Levi Wallace, through day 3 picks, like moving up. I think they're really shaping Sean's team the way Sean wants it. He got his quarterback. He's getting his receivers, running backs. I think it's just how does he put it all together? And I'm excited. It's really coming well. I was kind of nervous, but they've done really well in my opinion.
Yeah. I was kind of nervous after round 1 too. I liked the process. I was a big fan of the process. It's like, if you like your quarterback, go out and draft him. I still like that process. I think that makes sense to me. And I like Jonah Ellis. I like their day 3 picks. Like, I don't really have a lot to complain about here. Troy Franklin is the one guy that I was iffy about. Frankie and I, before the pick, it's hilarious. We were on the timeline talking about how we don't like Troy Franklin.
I was roasting Oregon receiver last night watching Bo Nix.
Exactly. That was it. I was watching Bo Nix. I texted Zach the same thing last night. I was like, I don't like Troy Franklin. So, yeah, it was just funny seeing the Broncos go out there and get him. But overall, I really like this draft. I really do. It's a really good draft to me. I have a lot more hope for this one than I did years prior. Last year, I was not as big of a fan of the draft as this one. The year before that, I wasn't a big of a fan as the draft as I was this one. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm happy about it. But any final thoughts? Anything you guys want to get off your chest before I sign us out here?
Is D-Bron's message accurate out of curiosity?
New deal. 4 for 55, 30.2 guaranteed. Was that including the 2 he already has? It's got to be including the 2 he already has.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just saw it and I wanted to.
I got it. John Franklin Myers is restructuring his contract with the Broncos. Franklin Myers signed a 4-year, $55 million extension that includes $30 million guaranteed.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
No. That was in October 2021. So I don't think he has a new deal yet.
Okay,
Sorry.
sweet. No,
Okay.
you're good to go.
Okay.
Schefter's just reiterating it.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, guys, please make sure you're checking out letstalkbroncos.com. Everyone here is on letstalkbroncos.com writing articles. Frankie's killing it. Carter's killing it. Zach's killing it. Yeah, make sure you guys are checking that out. And until next time, go Broncos.